one of the reasons why GCN developed into a fairly radical left-wing, some would say, I would say, publication. And that is because the people who were willing and able to work on it, by and large, were people who were not sort of part of the establishment. The only people who could really be listed in the masthead and be the public image of the newspaper were people who were already outsiders.
I started at GCN in 1977. I started out there as a volunteer for layout night, and I soon got pulled in to be an office manager, the business manager at GCN. I was hired through the collective process in a collective meeting that had at least 30 people in it. That was my interview. And the interview was all about my politics. I mean, they asked me whether I could balance a checkbook, but really it was mainly about my politics and how would I be working with gay men and working in a queer place, and how I felt about male nudity and all the, questions like that. And apparently I did okay. I got hired. It seemed to me like the center of the world, because it was, every conceivable type of person. You could meet every conceivable type of person there.
Gay Community News was founded in 1973. I was there in 1978. It was still at a point when the LGBT movement, since Stonewall, in its modern incarnation, was quite young. And so positions about certain things had not solidified, and there were we felt like, and this was probably my age as well, but I felt like we were asking questions no one had ever asked before. We were challenging absolutely everything. We didn't want to take any opinions or ideas or assumptions for granted. I saw the paper as a gay liberationist paper. That politic was very important to us. It was not a narrowly defined gay rights politic. It was much broader than that. We were very interested in examining gender roles in the broadest sort of way, in criticizing the family, in looking at the whole structure of society as patriarchy, and figuring out how to overturn that. We wanted social change in a very broad way.
I was very interested in the paper as a kind of forum for liberation, and I think that was really its history. It was part of if you sort of look back at like Mattachine and the homophile movements, but I think GCN had that kind of history of really trying to be about freedom and liberation, and throwing off all the shackles. Or what kind of movement did we want to be? Should we be focused on strictly sort of in a narrow way gay movement struggles, or did we have a broader vision of that, and what did that really mean?
GCN was known as the first national weekly to come out. It had a rebellious spirit. It was open to discussions of sex and sexuality. It kind of caught people's eye as a way to cohere and to connect nationally. Right. Between people, and so it functioned as a very important organ of communication between people in many different cities and in different contexts. I think it carried forth what the collective who came up with kind of the focus on race, class, gender, sexuality, etc., and looking at connections between things. I think the quarterly carried that forth. It really did want to give voice to queers of color out there, what they were thinking, what they were writing, artists, etc. Doing analysis and saying, okay, look what's going on.
One of the people who had come to us through a personal connection was Satya Little Bear. And so he put a calendar listing in for a community picnic on the Boston Common. And the only place it was listed was in that calendar listing in Gay Community News. And no one knew whether people would show up or not. hordes of people showed up. Now, I don't know whether hordes meant dozens or whether it meant like 100 or 200, but it was an enormous turnout for the time. And it so lifted our spirits because we knew that the only way people knew about that was by reading the paper. We knew that we had an audience.